The saloon breathed misery that night. It was late October 1893, in the dust-choked frontier town of Dry Hollow, New Mexico Territory, a place where men came to forget who they were, and often succeeded. The air was thick with sour whiskey, tobacco smoke, and the weight of unspoken failures. Oil lamps hissed and flickered along the walls, their yellow light carving harsh shadows across faces worn down by loss and labor. Laughter echoed, too loud, too forced, because silence would have revealed how desperate most of these men truly were. At a poker table scarred by years of abuse, sat Elias Whitaker. His hands were broad and cracked from years of ranch work, wrapped loosely around cards he barely studied. He had no love for gambling. He'd come to Dry Hollow for fencing wire and seed, nothing more. But loneliness had followed him inside. Across the table sat a man who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Zhang Ren, a railroad worker brought west by promises that never paid out, stared down at his cards as though they had personally betrayed him. His stack of coins was nearly gone. Everyone knew it. The dealer knew it. The other players smelled it. The cards were dealt again. Zhang's fingers trembled. His breath grew uneven. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, despite the cold leaking through the saloon's warped doors. He lost. A low murmur rippled around the table. Zhang searched his pockets, his coat, the floor, anything. Nothing. Then, after a moment that seemed to stretch longer than it should, he lifted his head and pointed toward the back wall. There stood a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 20. Her posture was rigid, as if standing still was the only way to survive. Her dark hair was braided neatly, though the silk dress she wore had long since lost its color and softness. Her name was Lan Mei. Zhang spoke softly, his English fractured and unsure. She said, "Odette, my sister's girl. She has value." The saloon fell silent, not with outrage, with familiarity. Elias looked around the table. No one objected, no one protested, no one met his eyes. He looked back at Lan Mei. Fear lived there, but beneath it was something colder. Resignation. Elias should have stood up. He should have thrown his cards down and walked away from that place forever. But he didn't. The dealer slid the final card. Elias won. Just like that, in the eyes of every man in the room, ownership changed. Zhang left without looking back. Lan Mei remained still. Outside, the night stretched wide and merciless. Stars burned cold overhead as Elias led her toward his wagon. "What do they call you?" he asked quietly. She hesitated. "Lan Mei," she said at last. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm Elias," he replied. "I have a small ranch north of here. It's not rich land, but it's honest. You'll have your own room. You'll be paid for your work. And I will never touch you. Ever. Do you understand?" She looked at him as if kindness were a language she'd never learned. The ranch sat alone beneath endless sky. Weather-beaten, simple, clean. Lan Mei waited for the truth to reveal itself. It never did. Elias rose before dawn, worked until dark, thanked her for meals, and kept his distance. He repaired the spare room, brought extra quilts, left books where she could reach them. Evenings were quiet. He taught her English slowly. Water, home, choice. Winter came early. Elias fell ill. For days, fever consumed him. Lan Mei stayed. She fed him broth, cooled his skin, whispered words from a homeland she'd been forced to leave behind. When he finally woke, he found her asleep in a chair beside his bed. "Why didn't you leave?" he asked. She met his eyes. "You treated me as human," she said carefully. "That is not something I abandoned." Ring changed everything. Trust grew into respect, respect into care, care into something deeper. One evening, Elias spoke the truth. "You were never bound here," he said. "You are free." Lan Mei placed her hand over his. "I have chosen this place," she replied. They married quietly that summer. The town whispered. They endured. Their story lived on. Not as scandal, but as proof that dignity survives, that kindness reshapes fate, that love sees the soul, not the bargain. If this story touched your heart, like this video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe for more unforgettable Wild West love stories. New emotional frontier tales every week. Subscribe now, and keep